We got Dan Devone on the show today from 95.7 The Game. The last time I talked to Dan Devone, he was saying, is the wise John Taffer says, shut it down. He was saying sell everyone. He was saying the Golden State Warriors need to revamp their entire roster, maybe take a year off from competing. But how about now? What are we thinking after a 5-0 start in the preseason? That's coming up on Locked On Warriors.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Warriors, everyone. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. A lot of ways you can check us out. We're free and available wherever you get your audio podcasts. You can stream us on YouTube. If you are there, subscribe, give us the thumbs up. We very much appreciate it. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. My guest on today's show from 95.7 The Game.
It's a hell of a promo read.
The four-time Emmy winner, it's Dan Devone of 95.7 The Game in San Francisco. My name's Charlie Walter. Dan knows me as Chuck, formerly at 95.7 The Game, KPIX, CBS News Bay Area, where I covered the Warriors. Today, we're asking the question, why can't the Warriors shock the world and be very competitive? Thoughts on Moses Moody, as he has shown a lot of promise so far this preseason. Over under 43.5. We revisit. We take in the over. We take in the under as we get you ready for next week's season opener. NBA season's here. Devone, how we feeling, my man?
We're doing well, but let me just preface by saying I love everybody out there, right? And I grew up in these parts, so I'm all about the Warriors. I go back in the day, so I'm not hating on anything. I got to come correct. So whatever you ask me, it's not about any hatred. It's just, I can't sugar this thing. So let's go, man, because I know that I'm going to get some hate mail sooner rather than later.
No, dude, I miss doing the shows with you. One of the things that I loved was we had the text line on 95.7 The Game, and there was a guy that messaged in every single day after Dan Devone once said, he called me the waffler, which apparently means you kind of change your takes. And I believe that everyone should be a waffler. When you get better information, when you get the experience, instead of being stubborn and sticking with an opinion, you change your opinion to the right one. So yeah, I was a waffler. But every day on the text line, dude, whether it was filling in for Morning Roast or whether it was an 11 o'clock show, that dude would be there very beginning. Charlie Waffles, he called me for an entire year. So he hasn't found the show yet because I haven't seen him on the comments. But yeah, miss it, man. Miss it. But are you going to waffle your opinion right now? Because I talked to you over the summer and you said that the Golden State Warriors' best course of action is to forget about a championship with this current core and this current nucleus. 5-0 start in the preseason. I know the record doesn't mean anything, but they've looked good. They look like they've assembled some pretty good role players. Can they buy into the roles? Will they be good? Your thoughts on the Warriors as they stand?
All right, for the record, I don't waffle. So, and if we need to go back, as Warner Wolf, a former sportscaster out in the beautiful city of New York, used to say, let's go to the videotape and we can bring up that podcast, because what I said, I still stand by. That this is a team that is, maybe the rebuild word is something that everyone wants to stay away from. Maybe we'll just sort of paint it with a light brush and just call it a transition. They're transitioning. But this team is not competitive when you're talking about where you typically would associate the Golden State Warriors with. They were synonymous, obviously, with titles and making a run at the Western Conference Championship. This year, they're a little sticky. It's like a carnival act. They're going to be shooting threes. And it's going to be entertaining, but this team no longer has the foundation. It no longer has the bones to compete with what is a very competitive West. And when you think about the Oklahomas, the Minnesotas, the Dallases, there's like 4 or 5 teams. And the Warriors right now, quite frankly, are just simply not in that area code.
So let's say a player like Jonathan Kuminga, who's looked good. I mean, mind you, he's looked good in just about every preseason game offensively. So I think he could take on the role of that second scorer. I mean, you saw him scoop it past Anthony Davis twice. He could take it to the rack. He's shooting over, close to 50% from 3. has shown the pull-up game. He's a bowling ball and lethal in transition. The man soars like a damn eagle. Why can't he be this star that steps into his role? Why can't Moses Moody flourish? Why can't role players like Heald and Anderson, I know you love Kyle Anderson, and DeAnthony Melton kind of stick to their roles, and Podziemski be that connector that we all love? Draymond be a star like he's been? Like what's this team seriously missing to the point where we can't at least talk about them in the same realm as in Oklahoma City?
What is it? What time is it? Is it happy hour for you already? I mean, are you?
No, I'm asking the question. That's the thing is, I don't think this team's going to be anything special. I think they're going to be.
Kylan in line 2, hide the keys to the liquor cabinet because, my man, you're sideways. No, I know. You're just throwing this out there, but I don't think Jonathan Kuminga is that guy yet and maybe he is. My point in all of this is that there's no precedence. There's no history. In fact, I heard Steve Kerr the other day, and he said he thinks Andrew Wiggins is going to be the number 2, which just goes to show you nobody knows. And once you take Steph off the floor, then what? Who becomes your second scorer? Who becomes that guy who consistently is going to give you 20, 25, 30 points a game? And I would even push back that on a good team, yeah, I know this is blasphemous, but Steph Curry right now at age 36, soon to be 37 this year, is more of a 2 guy. I don't know that he has the ability to be a 1 in terms of a scorer and centering everything around him being the eye of the storm. I think in an ideal world, he would be slotted to number 2, and you could give that to a younger star. But let's
maybe 1A, 1B, maybe like a 1A, 1B type situation if you were to somehow, some way land like a Giannis. But he's the number 1 on 27 teams in this league.
He's still a good player, but he just doesn't. And I think that there's a good chance, and knock on wood, nobody wants to see this, but I think last year was the most games he had played since, I want to say, 2016. So I think that's sort of the outlier. There's a good chance that he's going to go down with an injury, as he has done over the last 5 to 7 years. And when he's out, then what? Because this league has never changed. It's about stars. It's about having players. And the Warriors just simply do not. I know that they got a lot of nice pieces. There's a lot of ancillary pieces that it's like you and Kylan getting invited to Thanksgiving dinner, right? And these people said, well, let's just serve you the trimmings. They bring out, a nice casserole, one of those, some mashed potatoes and green bean casserole. Oh my God, who the hell serves that thing? And then you got like some cranberry sauce, and they're bringing out all the trimmings. And you whisper into Kylan's ear saying, honey, grab your coat. We got to get the hell out of here. And Kylan's like, what are we doing? You're going to say, there's not a goddamn turkey on the table. And that's sort of where you're at with the Warriors. Yeah, these are nice pieces, but where are you going to go with these at the end of the day? If you had a young Steph, if you had a young Clay back in the day, you had Kevin Durant doing his thing. If you had a young Draymond, then these pieces make fit. I'd buy into it. Let's talk about under the championship. But this and this alone, if you're going to try and sell me on Kuminga and Buddy Hield, who couldn't even get off the bench in Philadelphia, or if you're going to sell me on slow-mo, yeah, they can fill roles, but you don't need to go 13 deep. What you need are some stars. And all you have right now is just one, and he happens to be soon to get his AARP card, that being one Steph Curry, who's at age 36. Not hating on the Warriors. I hope they prove me wrong, man, because I love this team.
Moses Moody's emergence. He's looked really good in the preseason thus far. Dan Devone wants more stars. Could Moses Moody flourish into a really nice shooting guard? We're talking about it coming up on Locked On Warriors. Fellas, it's no secret that most of us are busy, and when the moment strikes, oftentimes it is spontaneous. HIMS is changing men's healthcare by providing you with access to affordable sexual health treatments from the comfort of your couch. HIMS provides access to a range of doctor-trusted ED treatments like chewable hard mints and Viagra and Cialis and their generics for up to 95% cheaper. The process is 100% online, so there's no need for uncomfortable doctor's visits. Just answer a series of questions on their site, and a medical provider will determine the right treatment option. If prescribed, your medication ships directly to you in discreet packaging for free. No insurance is needed, and one low price covers everything from treatments to ongoing care. With hundreds of thousands of trusted subscribers, HIMS can help you find the ED option that works for you. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/lockedon. That's HIMS.com/lockedon for your personalized ED treatment options. HIMS.com/lockedon. The products mentioned are chewable compounded products, which are not approved by or verified for safety or effectiveness by the FDA. Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan. The most impressive player thus far in the preseason. It's not been Steph Curry, not my guy Brandon Bajemski. I mean, Trace Jackson Davis may be one of the most surprising with some of the games that he's had out there, but it's not him. It's not Kuminga. He may be a close second. It's Moses Moody. Moses Moody started out as the 11th man off the bench, the 11th man in the rotation in Hawaii when they played the Clippers to start this preseason. I don't know if it was just experimentation or if that's what Steve Kerr thought of him at the time, but Gary Payton II was in that second lineup. He was not. He was in the third rotation. Started some games, has scored a lot of points, led the team in scoring with 21 in their last game. Moses Moody, man, I know that we've always, the both of us, we kind of been on the same page. Like, good player, but what truly is his ceiling? He's got a high floor. And now I wonder, what is his ceiling? Is it maybe a lot bigger than people gave him credit for? And there has been a Warriors fan base, part of the fan base out there for a long time that has been begging for this guy to get more minutes. Let's make that clear.
Yeah, and I think this might be the year. And why not give him an opportunity at the 2 spot, right? I know you're big on Pajemski, but I would entertain. Matter of fact, I love the idea that this thing, it's like high school back in the day. I mean, aside from Steph Curry, maybe Draymond, I mean, everybody's job is up for grabs here. And why can't Moody be your number 2? I like the size. I like the fact that he's a good defender. Sort of smallish when you think about their backcourt of Pajemski's teaming up with Steph Curry. If Moody gets the number 2, I think that, you've got now a bigger backcourt and he's more versatile in terms of defending the ball. He's shooting the 3 and he's doing it without hesitancy. And I think when that edict was sort of sent down at the beginning of the year that Steve Kerr wants everybody shooting the 3, I think that it really resonated with somebody like that of a Moses Moody. Because Moses Moody, if you think about it, just it's his nature, it's his personality to sort of defer. And when he has Steph on the floor, Draymond or Clay before he left for Dallas, I think it was just in his personality to always sort of look to defer to those guys. And now he's going to be a little bit more assertive and not hesitate, but just go ahead and pull the trigger on that 3. And I think that sort of unlocked a lot of what it is that we're seeing.
The Warriors can be, I mean, you mentioned how they're small. Yeah, they're small at the 4 and the 5 for the most part. But positionally at the 2 and 3, they can go pretty big. You talked about Moody there. In the last game, we saw Steve Kerr start Andrew Wiggins at the 2. He went with Kuminga at the 3. We're still trying to figure out whether Jonathan Kuminga is a small forward or a power forward. Steve Kerr, who played him, I think, 92% last year at the power forward position, still says that he needs work to become a small forward. But we heard Draymond Green like a month ago say that it's never been a question. Like, his only position is the small forward position. He doesn't know how to play power forward. We've also heard Green say that he thinks Kuminga is an all-star. So who we trust in here, with Jonathan Kuminga in that lineup? Wiggins at the 2, Kuminga at the 3, Draymond at the 4, Trace Jackson Davis at the 5. Hate it, love it, take it, leave it. Thoughts?
Wow. I got to digest. The problem with Kuminga, if you're going to play the 3 in the NBA, you got to shoot the 3. If you're going to play small forward, you've got to be able to step out behind the line and shoot that thing with some level of consistency. And I don't know that he has that in his bag yet. And if you can't, then you can't play that position. So he's sort of a tweener. I don't think I think we know he can deal on people. I think he can back down on anybody. And I love that little turnaround Jimmy he's got now from like 15 to 16 feet he's developed over the last year. The issues with Jonathan Kuminga, it's defense. On the ball defender, he's good, but it's about the rotational defense. It's about transitional defense, which the Warriors are one of the worst, which that's another thing that I think, you got to at some point address. When you're statistically one of the worst teams in transitional defense, and then you want to shoot 3s, well, guess what? That just doesn't add up because 3s lead to runouts. And while this team is going to be entertaining.
Can I stop you right there?
Yeah, go right ahead.
You want to know what the neutralizer is?
kinda, but go ahead.
Take a
I think
charge. Take a charge. Who's going to step back there and take that charge?
Pajemski.
Oh, it's Pajemski, baby. League leader. That's what he does. No,
Well,
but that is valuable when you have someone in there that can, that's probably back there deep because he's shooting a lot of those threes and other team gets out in transition. I mean, it's a crazy statistic to look at, right? In most regards, like, oh, he leads the league in charges. Like that's so valuable. But when you think about it from some perspective, it is, right?
No, hey, listen, man, I would not stand in front of today's NBA player and take a charge. You're out of your mind. But hats off to him. But I don't think that answers the problem that we're having a hard time getting back on defense, and now we're going to be shooting threes. Those leak outs are going to beat Pajemski up the floor, and having one little redhead back there taking charge is not going to end what is a serious, serious problem with your basketball team. So I think Steve Kerr even recognizes. I mean, think about this. When the Warriors were winning titles, he never made these declarations, we're going to shoot threes. No, that was Daryl Morey on line 2 in the 2018 Houston Rockets in that 6'5" and under basketball league they were playing in. The Warriors always did it with balance, floor movement, just this innate ability to know where everybody was on the floor, shoot a three. Certainly they reinvented the game with their three-point shooting. But now to say, we're going to shoot threes, I don't want to see the mid-range. It sounds very sticky. And that's what they are. They're sort of a carnival act these days. I think that they're going to be fun. They're going to blow out teams, but they're also going to get smoked. I don't think they have the foundational pieces. The young Steph, the young Draymond, the young KD, or stars in this league to really contend when push comes to shove.
Well, one way they could do it is by making a trade mid-season. They got draft picks galore. They can use those as capital. They have Kuminga if they wanted to go that route. Pajemski, Moody, Andrew Wiggins, who doesn't have a ton of value as present. But if he has a bounce back year, he does become valuable because he's not that expensive in today's day and age. So,
well, he just signed that deal, but I got you.
I mean, he's making what, 26 million a year. If he's an all-star, and granted, he's got a lot of work to do to be an all-star, but an all-star making 26 million, it's pretty fair. It's tradable.
Yeah, no, I think that Wiggins, if he plays well, and that's what has to happen, right? Like, I don't think you can pull a trigger right now on a trade. Nobody wants Wiggins. It's not like the rest of the NBA doesn't get, the NBA package. You can see what we can see.
And you can't trade Kuminga because you don't believe enough in Wiggins, probably internally deep down. So you kind of have to keep them both right now. That's why neither of them moved this offseason or really flirted in trade talks. You would have to think. But the Warriors are probably going to have to take a pick, right? Unless they do think that Wiggins is a 2 or can, be the first man off the bench and they can split time. I don't know what their plans are there.
Well, or you're going to have to package those two, because I think anybody who is looking for some sort of value is if you're asking for a frontline player, if you're asking depending on what the trade involves, I think that Jonathan Kuminga is going to have to be packaged with a Moses Moody, have to be packaged with a Jonathan Kuminga if it's going to be a serious trade. If you're going to trade for Andrew Wiggins straight up, what are you getting back? I mean, not much. So I think it's got to be a package deal. At least that was the sentiment in the offseason. Listen, if Wiggins has a bounce back season, which why not? Give him the benefit of the doubt that he's eradicated sort of the personal issues that he's been dealing with. We know he's capable. Then that clearly raises his stock in terms of trading. And if he's that good, then you don't have to deal with him. The issues I have with Andrew Wiggins is that he's the same cat he was in Minnesota. Like this whole idea now, what is it, 4 years later, 5 years later? Because we thought initially when he came to the Warriors, the initial sort of sentiment was, welcome home. You were at Minnesota. They don't know what the hell they're doing. It's the T-Wolves. And this is when the T-Wolves were bad. You're with the Warriors. We're all about winning. Come, sit down, young man. We'll give you the secrets to how to play winning basketball. And everybody said, well, listen, he doesn't have the pressure of having to be a number 1. You don't even have to be a number 2. That could be Klay Thompson. You could be a number 3. Welcome to the Warriors. And yes, it's all going to fit here. We're not Minnesota. We're about Steve Kerr. And then at the end of the day, he's still the same dude as he was in Minnesota. Lethargic at times, disappears on the floor for whatever reason, is not motivated, a bit of an introvert. That was the tag on him in Minnesota. And some 5 years later, that's essentially who he is with the Golden State Warriors.
Final takes, final thoughts, aspirations, and dreams. We're discussing it all as we enter the regular season. That's coming up on Locked On Warriors. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book. So if you're in the middle of the game, you got a hunch, you think you know what's coming next, you think you know what the score, the outcome's going to be, you can place your bets on the same page where you get the latest stats and have live play-by-play. Consolidation, baby. We love it. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets. That's guaranteed. It's when you place your first $5 bet, and you can do it on FanDuel.com. Dan Devone and myself are going to discuss whether the Warriors are going to go over or under their win total of 43.5 this season. They won more games than that a year ago. What will they do in 24-25? If you want to place that bet and get some bonus bets back, $200 to be exact, you could place that $5 bet on FanDuel.com.
I don't think, Chuck, that there's any way to evade the fact that your core got old and that you're going to go. Listen, if there's one thing that if I could revisit, that maybe I said to you on the last podcast, that, yeah, maybe they're not taking TNT to this thing and blowing it up, but it is a transition. And the Warriors will never admit this. They're going to shoot threes. They're going to be entertaining. Hopefully they'll get into a playing game, maybe steal a playoff series. But this is transitioning until they locate that next core, until they find the next winning ingredient so that they can again be relevant and challenge for the West. Hopefully it'll be a year or 2 years off, but this is clearly a transition. The idea of the Warriors once again being synonymous with titles, I think you're just kidding yourself. And there was really no way around it. You can revisit Wiggins and getting back to Weissman and some of those moves, but really the problem being is that Clay, Steph, and Draymond were the three pillars by which this foundation and this dynasty was built on, and they all got old. And so how does a dynasty end? Well, never very well. So what do? Is that you sort of going through a transition like this, just mask it, right? Just mask it with this 3-point shooting and all these coconuts who you may think are good players and good role players, I guess, but really, if you were to add up all 13 of these guys, it's maybe, half of a legitimate NBA quality star. So this league is about the Chet Holmgrens. It's about the Shai Gilgeous-Alexanders. It's about the Jalen Williams all being in their mid-20s and on the same team. It's about superstars like Luka Doncic, and the Warriors just don't have any of those guys that are in that sweet spot of being in their mid to late 20s.
Okay. We respect all opinions, but I hate your opinion there. I hate it. I think it's fair. I think it's fair to come in with that angle, and I think it's also fair to come in optimistic. Steph Curry and Draymond Green, man.
Are you buying like the over-under that the Warriors, 43? Are you taking the over? Warriors 43 wins this year?
43.5. Yeah, I'll take the over. I thought they were all right last year, man. They weren't consistent, but I thought they were all right. When they had Draymond Green, I did think they were all right. They've gotten old. And you say they're getting older. Their younger players are getting older too. And all it takes is a couple of those guys popping at the same time. Jimsky was very solid last year. And I'm not saying, it's unfair to set championship expectations, even for this franchise who, it does at times feel like it's championship or bust. I think you do have to, accept the transition that a successful season is what you said, winning like a playoff series. And I think a successful season for the Warriors is seeing a path, having a direction, because I said this all offseason, it just feels cobbled together. And I have gotten a little higher on this team because of what I've seen in 5 preseason games. They've looked good. And until they show me otherwise, I'm going to be high on them. Like I said, I get the data, I process it, I form my opinions off that. But I do think that with Steph Curry and Draymond Green, two just orchestrators on offense that, Steph Curry moves without the ball, unlike anyone in basketball, creates incredible gravity. And Draymond Green is the key orchestrator who can, just direct everything offensively and defensively. Until they show me that it's 1,000% over, I'm still going to buy it until they give me a reason not to. I said this the year they won the title. I said it the next year when you're like, no, this team's done. The vibes are horrible. The punch ended them. I said, let me see it. And then the entire season went along. They couldn't win a road game. And by the end of the year, heading into the playoffs, I said, this team is not winning an NBA championship. So let's see it. Let's have them prove to us that they are who they thought we were. Something like
well,
that.
I hope I'm wrong, man. You were going
Denny Green.
Denny Green, Arizona Cardinals, Matt Leinart's
The Bears are who they thought we were. And we let them off the hook. Another damn game.
R.I.P. Denny Green. So I hope I'm wrong. You're right. Look at who knows? That's the beauty of sports. It's the beauty of basketball. Maybe Steph continues to be Steph. And there's the possibility that Jonathan Kuminga takes that step that everybody's been waiting for 3 years now, that Moody takes that step, that Pajemski, this old soul, becomes the sort of player that is just way ahead of the curve. And all of this sort of comes together and they buy in and there's a little magic. I mean, it's happened before. Hell, Miami is competitive every year. You look at their talent and their roster, you're like, what the hell? How's this happening? So it can happen. And certainly the pedigree is there. I think, though, sometimes you've just got to be a little real about things and recognize that dynasties do come to an end. But fortunately, it's not like Kobe in his final years where it was just Kobe limping around on a bad wheel. I mean, this is a Warrior team that I think can be competitive. It's going to be entertaining as hell, man. I love the idea that Steve Kerr's, we're going to shoot threes. I've just never heard that proclamation from a coach this side of Daryl Morey. It's sort of like he's the carnival barker, you know? Ringling Brothers, step up and watch Steph Curry at age 36. We will shoot threes. That's right.
Hurry, step right up. Yeah, I love it, man.
You've never seen anybody shoot threes like this.
We're open-minded heading into the season. We're open-minded. Warriors already, set a franchise record that didn't count, 28 threes in a preseason game. Dan Devone, you can catch him on 95.7 The Game. Thanks for joining me, man.
You got it.